Hi everyone, Chaz916 here. Before I get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who has liked, followed, and subscribed to my channels on YouTube and Instagram. You are the best. Thank you. You make my old heart feel good. Okay, so let's get started. I did my playtesting and I took the survey. So in this video, I'm going to summarize my notes, player interactions, and my own thoughts as a DM and player. Let's get started. My views on the survey itself. The survey seemed to be well made and well written. It covered everything in the packet, all the new rules, all the changes. It was very complete. It was fairly easy to understand and to use. Playtest notes. I playtested online in a Discord with 2 players. I created 2 NPCs, I served as the DM, and we ran it there. I also playtested solo with some random tables that I created. In both playtests, we used an old Judges Guild adventure called Aelel's Tutoring Service. It was copyrighted back in 1982 and published in Pegasus. I simply created a bunch of random tables to go with it for my solo. As a note, I also read and reread the packet as looking for and looking at it as a DM. This was fun and kind of informative. Anyway, one note, I did not test the online VTT, so there was nothing in this report about it. Backgrounds. I really like the idea of creating your own background. So in order to foster this in my games, I asked everyone to create a background based on their backstory. I think it turned out pretty well, and everyone seemed to have a good time with it. Feedback after the campaign was over from the players indicated that they felt that the characters created were much the same as they were in a 5D&D 5e campaign, or D&D 5e campaign. So campaign compatibility seems to be being maintained at least this far. Mixed races. Okay, so I have a lot to say about this one. Some of it you may or may not like. I run a world called EOS. And in the past, I originally didn't allow half races. The reason why was because I consider each race to have its own unique genetic code. So I just didn't feel like it was right. Several years ago, I started making exceptions. I allowed half races as anomalies, genetic anomalies, but they could not have offspring. In the past few years, I have seen many humanoids added to our human tree, Homo sapiens. And there's a lot of support, and some of it seems to indicate that these early humanoids may have crossbred and interbred and produced viable offspring. So I've pretty much abandoned that. So I am going to be allowing half races in my games. And I kind of like the way that they did it in the new rules, where you get your traits from one parent, and I consider that to be the dominant genetic parent, and then the other parent, you can have basically physical features from either one or both. Now, my players are not quite as gung-ho on this as I am. They're kind of doing a wait-and-see kind of thing. They really like playing half-elves, and, you know, they're very popular, so not sure how well this is going to go over with players. Okay, the D20 test. There wasn't a lot about this, except that basically there's going to be like a name change. So I'm going to kind of hold judgment on this until I can see it more in action and how they're going to be explaining things. My hope is that it will simplify things and make it easier for players to understand, as well as GMs. But we'll see. Playtesting, and we'll see what comes out. Okay, unarmed strikes. Now, in my playtest this time, we really didn't playtest these. So I don't really have any playtest info to give you yet on this one. I am looking forward to trying this. I had one player commented that he really would like to try it with a monk. I'm kind of looking at thinking that that might be interesting to playtest. So we'll get back with you on that one. Okay. Crits and failures. 1s and 20s. We had people on both sides on this one. We kind of hashed this one out though, and our consensus is that they make the game more exciting, and they should be available to players. Now as a DM, I kind of like the idea that monsters won't be doing this. They do have a rechargeable ability and layer abilities, and I think that makes up for not being able to crit. So I think that that's a good way to go. I would like to mention though, that I do enforce a rule that states if something is impossible, you don't get a roll on it. And I did that, and I've always done that, because people get 20s. Sometimes they get them very frequently, and if you let them roll on the impossible happens, and it's very hard to explain away. And it's really kind of rinky, you know? I do make exceptions. If a player character can come up with what makes sense and seems possible as an explanation for what he is doing, I will allow him to make the roll. Anyway, that's my take on it. That's how I run it in my campaigns. As it stands in the new playtest rules, my players weren't real happy with it, especially the magic users. As a DM, I wasn't real happy with it. So that's how we're standing on it. Spell list. I kind of like the way this is done. Just as a review. Arcane spells are spells that draw on magic. Divine spells are spells that draw on the power of the gods and the outer planes. And primal spells are spells that draw on the forces of nature and the inner planes. Now, I like the idea because I think it will make it easier to add spells to the game. You just put it into the appropriate list and it's there. However, I do hope that they will continue to create special spell lists for each magic user class, because I think they add flair to that magic user class. And I like the idea that you get a certain number of spells with it that don't count off the spells that you learn. Okay, from my player's perspective, they seem to be a little bit more concerned about how this might affect their characters. But after hashing it out and kind of going through it, it really doesn't look like there's going to be any real change. Okay, now we come to the Aelel and Aasimar thing. Okay, I had a couple people who mentioned to me, not in my actual playtest, but just in general, that they thought that they were a little too close alike. After reading through them, I didn't really see that. And I kind of brought up the fact that we had demons and devils. I mean, they seem kind of alike, but they aren't. And I don't think that the Aasimar and the Adelins are that much alike. I think they're close, but there's enough differentiation to make them interesting. Okay, humans. Well, I had a hard time convincing a player to play a human. My players don't seem to like them too much because, well, they really aren't that special in the game anymore. Okay, having said that, I do kind of like the fact that they have resourceful, skillful, and versatile. I do think it helps. My players kind of indicated that they didn't think it helped enough. They did have a couple of suggestions. I'm going to pass them on here. I don't know if they'll make any difference, but one suggested that maybe we should have a special class of magic, maybe something like ancient magics, that maybe only humans can use, or maybe limit psionics to just humans for player characters. I don't know how these two would actually work and play. I'll leave that to the wizards. Let them figure it out. Okay, feeds. This was an easy one to review. We all loved it. I like the idea of players starting with a feat. I think that having levels for feats is going to make it very interesting, but again, that's a tentative judgment because I'm going to have to wait and see what they actually do with it. So we have a yay on that, but we're all kind of tentative at this point. We want to see how it goes. Alright, so, let's see. Okay, that's about it. I have to admit that this was a limited playtest, only a solo and a one-off, but overall, everything seems to be compatible, and the players and I feel that the characters created in 1D&D have the same feeling as the ones that we create in D&D 5e. So far, so good. I'm looking forward to see what they do next. Hope you guys will stay around. I am going to look for and try to form a group that so we can play test the rest of them. Hopefully a little bit better and a little more thoroughly. You guys take care. Talk to you soon.